sister called me to chat about our grandmother's lasagna recipe. That was our code for I've been kidnapped. When we were kids, our mom was paranoid about abductions. She made us memorize codes in case one of us was ever taken and needed to communicate without alerting a captor. Grandmother's lasagna meant I'm in danger, but I can't talk freely. Uncle Roy's cabin meant trace this call. Cousin B's wedding meant there's more than one person. The dog got out meant I don't know where I am. We thought she was crazy. We practiced the codes like a joke at the dinner table, rolling our eyes, never once thinking we'd actually use them. I was at work when my sister Margot called, her voice bright and cheerful like nothing was wrong. She said, "Hey, I was just thinking about grandmother's lasagna recipe. Do you remember it?" My blood went cold. Both of our parents were only children. We never had a grandmother. I signaled frantically to my coworker to call 911 and kept my voice calm. "Oh yeah, grandma's lasagna. Haven't thought about that in years. What made you think of it?" She said, "I was thinking about making it for Uncle Roy. You know how he loves it up at the cabin." Uncle Roy's cabin meant trace this call. I scribbled a note to my coworker who was already on the phone with police. They need to trace this now. I asked, "How's the weather out there?" hoping she could give me a location. She said, "Oh, you know, same as always. Hey, did you hear about Cousin B's wedding? There's more than one person." My heart was pounding so hard I could barely think straight. I heard a man's voice in the background say, "Who are you talking to?" Margot said casually, "Just my brother, catching up." The man said, "Put it on speaker." Margot said loudly, "You're on speaker now. Say hi to my friend." I said hi and kept talking about the fake recipe, asking about ingredients and cooking times like my sister wasn't in mortal danger on the other end. I heard a second voice, another man, muttering something I couldn't make out. My coworker showed me a note from police. "Keep her talking. Need more time." I asked, "Hey, did you ever find that dog?" Mom said the dog got out. This was the code for, "Do you know where you are?" Margot paused, then said, "No, still looking for him." She didn't know where she was. I could tell the men were getting impatient because one of them said something about wrapping this up. Then Margot said, "Remember that time we went to the place with the red barn? The one off exit 34? I keep thinking about that trip. We never went anywhere with a red barn." She was telling me where she was. I scribbled exit 34 red barn and shoved it at my coworker who relayed it to police. They confirmed there was an abandoned farm off exit 34, about 25 minutes from my office. One of the men said, "Okay, that's enough. Hang up now." Margot said, "Wait, I have to tell him about the party." The man said, "What party?" She said, "Mom's birthday party. It's at 3, right? Or was it 4? I can never remember." I looked at my watch. It was 2:15. She was telling me something was happening at 3. I said, "It's at 3. Don't be late." She said, "Okay, love you." The phone went dead. Police were 20 minutes away. I was 15. I ran to my car and drove faster than I've ever driven in my life, blowing through red lights with my hands shaking on the wheel. I pulled up to the farm at 2:52 and saw a white van by a falling down barn, and through a dirty window I could see my sister in a chair with her hands behind her back. I called 911 and told them I was on scene, and they said to stay in my car. Units were 3 minutes out. I heard shouting inside the building at 2:56. Police arrived at 2:58, and there was more shouting and then 2 gunshots that made my whole body go rigid. They breached the building and I stood there unable to breathe until an officer came out and said they had her. She was alive. Margot was on the ground with her hands over her head, shaking but not hurt. 2 men in custody. A third shot by police when he pulled a weapon. At the hospital, she told me they grabbed her from a parking garage that morning. They were going to traffic her across the state line. She'd heard them talking about a buyer. She'd been there 6 hours before she convinced them to let her call her brother because she was scared and wanted to hear a familiar voice one more time. She said she knew if she could get me on the phone, I'd remember. I asked how she stayed so calm. She said, "I knew you'd come. I just had to stay alive until 3. The police said if she'd hung up 2 minutes earlier, they wouldn't have traced the call in time. Our mom passed away 5 years ago. I called her crazy my whole childhood for making us memorize those codes. I don't anymore."